Actually, it doesn't give me an option to make a recording other than the original.
I could stop this and
Oh,
log on as a
I'm going to
second.
allow Rich Tremblay to record it locally.
Oh, perfect. Rich to the rescue.
Thank you, Rich.
As long as it works, we'll give it a shot.
Well, twice we've needed the backups, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're good.
It's 7:01, so I'm going to start reading the script. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio-video recorded. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is being held by Zoom at the link provided in this notice. As always, for every town meeting, the agendas are posted on the town calendar. And if you open the agenda, there'll be a link to the Zoom that you can just click on and it'll bring you right to it. But right now, the meeting ID is 834-3042-3637. And you need to take and put in a passcode 406418. I'm Bob Pease. I am the chair of the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. We presently have 50 participants. I would ask everyone to keep themselves muted unless you have raised your hand using the reactions panel at the bottom of the screen. If you move your cursor to the bottom of the screen, there'll be a reactions panel. And if you click on that, one of the things you can do is raise your hand and wait until the host calls on you to unmute yourself and speak. Right now, I'm not going to remove everyone's ability to unmute themselves, but you know, if we have a problem, then I will do that. Because 51 people is a lot of people. Are there any let's see. I already read that. All right. So is there any public comment from members of the commission?
Roll call.
I gotta do roll call first. I'm Bob Pease, I'm the chair. Rich Birch.
Present.
Jeff Viviano.
Present.
Katie Childs.
Present.
Mike LaRouche.
Present.
Mary Wilson.
Here.
Rich Tremblay.
Present.
And for the everyone at home, our conservation administrator is on vacation this week, so I would ask your patience with the meeting hosts because you know, we'll have to do more on our own because we don't have our administrator to help us out. So now, is there any public comment from members of the commission? Seeing no hands raised, I'm going to mute that person who's talking. Is there any public comment from members of the public? First, Carl Strathmeyer. Go ahead, Carl.
Yes, hi. I just have an administrative or procedural question, Mr. Chair, about the agenda item relating to the water district.
Yeah.
I see on the agenda that this is simply they're presenting the commission a notice This is not a hearing. This is not an application. They're not looking for permission to do anything. They're simply giving us a notice. Is that what's happening?
That is the way it's presented on the agenda.
Okay, Thanks.
Gwen Moss.
Yeah, John Brush, 100 Royal Fern. I did have a number of questions about the study.
All right, and now is not the time, Jack. Wait.
Yeah, I understand that now.
Okay,
I'll lower my hand.
all right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
If there are no other comments from the public, the first thing on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting, April 19th. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
second,
Okay, a motion in a second, a motion by Rich, second by Mary, roll call. Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
aye,
Richard,
aye.
and I for myself. The next thing on the agenda is an appointment hearing. And so I am recusing myself from this appointment hearing. And so I will be making Mary Wilson the host. Let's see. Yes, because she is the vice chair. And I'm assuming she'll make me the host back again when we're done, when the rest of the commission is done with this.
I will
And,
try.
So now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mary.
Thank you, Bob. So I would invite the Water District and or their representative to proceed.
Hi, my name's Lou Sirocco. I'm with Ty and Bond. Here to talk a little bit about what the district's plans are for pilot testing of the Hickory Hills well. I guess a question for the commission. I know I've been corresponding with Anna, the agent. She's not here tonight. Just double checking, confirming she passed along the letter we pulled together.
She did, yes.
Great.
And I forwarded it out to the to my fellow commissioners.
Okay, great. So what that letter is it's just describing what the piloting entails. We've got a pretty limited scope of what's going on out there. In a nutshell, we'll have a temporary tank next to the building that will be pulling water out of the existing hydrant out of the back of the pump station and filling that, so that we can then feed our pilot, which will be set up inside the existing building. So that's the extent of what we're going to be doing there. The pilot will produce about 10 gallons a minute of iron, manganese, and PFAS-free potable drinking water that will have to be discharged upland to the facility. But I guess this letter is kind of going through those particulars. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, this is viewed as an exempt activity due to its minimal impact. So I guess we're going before you as a local board of jurisdiction to see if you're in agreement with that, have any questions about that, and confirm that no further action at this time would be needed. Nothing permanent is planned. Once there is a plan to do something that is any way remotely more permanent, obviously we'd be coming in front of the board with the full notice of intent to review anything that would be changing or altering the site in any way. If you want, I can kind of go through the figures that we pulled together, if that's helpful, or open it up to questions if you're ready for those.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And I did see, I think there's going to be just quite a bit of dialogue here. I did see the position to exempt from the Mass Wetlands Protection Act. I didn't see any positioning to exempt from the Lunenburg local bylaw. So I would remind the commissioners that both are in scope here. And I actually have some questions. I think what I would like to ask of my fellow commissioners is that we address questions about the pilot and the scope of the work first, and then then address the question of exemption proposal that's put before us. So my own questions about the pilot project, it wasn't clear to me how long, what was the duration that's proposed here.
Yeah, we've originally it was going to be a year long. We're curtailing that quite a bit. I think we're going to be probably 6 months or less. We're probably going to try to be closer to 3 to 4 months.
So 6 months max is what I'm understanding you to say?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the 20,000 gallon tanker will be on site the entire duration?
That's correct. In order to avoid a substantial discharge or a discharge of water with PFAS of any kind, we felt that was the best way to achieve that.
Okay, thank you. And the location of that temporary tank will be within the 100-foot buffer zone?
Yes, it's going to be basically right next to the existing building. We're going to put it right next to the building, as close as we can get it to the building.
Okay. And with regard to the testing of the discharge, how is that going to be controlled and or monitored?
Yeah, we'll have an on-site guy who's there every day, taking various samples throughout the day. A portion of those samples go to a mass certified laboratory for backup.
Okay, and so is that a single sample daily or multiple samples daily?
Depends on what we're sampling for. For like iron and manganese, we'll be taking several samples throughout the day. PFAS is less of a need to take it so regularly, as that doesn't change much.
And will the samples be taken of the actual discharge, or will they be taken prior to discharge?
Both raw water and of the discharge, yes.
Okay, so then if for some reason there were escapes, they would be escaping onto the ground.
Yep. Yeah, we would
Okay.
we would be monitoring that. You know, the effluent is what's monitored most closely. The whole goal of the pilot is to ensure that we're removing all things that we're there to remove. That mainly being the iron, manganese, and PFAS. So we'll be looking for non-detects throughout the pilot on that.
Okay, those are my questions and about the actual testing and the project. I'll hold my questions on the exemption position and as a phase 2 of this dialogue. I'll open the floor to my fellow commissioners to ask questions about the scope of the project. Rich Bursch, I see you have raised your hand.
Was a broadcaster until he discovered, oh, I can just take 4chan and put it on TV. He was there, Rush Limbaugh. By the way.
Okay, I muted the person that was providing some background noise. Rich, are you still
All right.
there?
I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple quick questions. Is this process filtration or chemical removal?
It's mainly filtration removal. The iron and manganese uses some of the existing chemicals for pH adjustment. Other than that, it's just air, pH adjustment, and then the activated carbon for filtration.
Okay. So the filters are being housed inside the building?
Correct. There'll be a number of 6-inch diameter columns that will run the water through inside the building. Yep.
Okay. So no additional chemicals other than what is currently being treated and stored on site?
That is correct. Right.
All right. And so it said something about 200 gallons per minute into the tank and then 10 gallons per minute out of the tank is what the plan is?
Correct. So every day, 200 is a bit of an arbitrary number in that it's tough to run the well at much lower flow rates, but basically it's a target rate that we're going to be looking to run the well minimally, that every day we're just going to fill the tank. So, I mean, you'll turn it on for, a couple of hours,
hour.
fill the tank. Yeah. Right. And then turn it off.
I mean, you're looking at least a 10-to-1. So if
Yeah.
200 is your minimum target, then you'd have to spend 10 hours draining it back out if you filled it in an hour. And is it,
Um,
and it'll be pumped from the tank up to the discharge area?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So it'll be,
Oh, we're having some background noise there.
From Ken. There we go.
there we go. Yeah, so there's a hydrant, existing hydrant out back. So a hose will be connected to the hydrant. That'll be run over to this tank to fill it up. And then there'll be a smaller hose, say like a garden hose style, whatever it is, that'll run into the building to feed the pilot. And then another garden hose that'll come out to discharge the 10 gallons a minute.
And during tank filling, there will be personnel on site.
Yeah, it's a completely manual process from that perspective. Mostly, they'll come in, they'll switch on the pump, make sure it gets filled, then turn the pump off. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm done,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rich Birch. Do other conservation commissioners have questions about the scope of the project or what's actually happening with this proposed project? Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions on the scope of the project. All right, now let's shift over to talking about the proposal as a exempted activity under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act. So I did read the proposal language that was provided by Ty and Bond in my own read of the Wetlands Protection Act and of that language. I saw that they were really scoping out temporary transient short-term type of activities, not activities that are going to persist on site for an extended period of time. And as is common in the Wetlands Protection Act, they gave us examples of doing a short-term like soil test or water test, but not no guidance around explicit guidance around what that exemption bars are. This is a complex project and has a lot of moving parts, and in my view and my interpretation does not appear to match the examples in terms of the transient natures that those examples seem to exemplify. But I'm just one vote. And I will open the floor to my fellow commissioners to ask questions or state positions. Rich Birch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, the project is not exempt from the Lunenburg Wetland Protection Bylaw, as the bylaw does not recognize any of the DEP regulations exemptions.
And
So-
they haven't made a position that it should be exempt either.
Yep. So at this point, they would have to file under the local bylaw to begin with. It's
That looks like Jack. I will mute Jack.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, at this point, the project is kind of cloudy as far as duration. 3 to 4 months, could be 6 months. None of that speaks temporary to me. And 200 gallons could be more, could be less. So it is a project that I think should at least have an RDA filing to firm up some of these and firm up the testing requirements and the storage on site, erosion protection for the runoff from the tank being emptied. So I do not feel that it is exempt from either filing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Are there other questions or comments by fellow commissioners?
To watch it.
Okay. And some background noise, folks. If you're not speaking, I would ask you to mute. Thank you. Okay. So I think at this point, I do know that there are a lot of people on this call because they're very interested in this particular topic. But as was stated previously, this is not a hearing. And so there's not an opportunity for public comment. I would ask my fellow commissioners, I think it's time to take a straw poll. We've already heard this activity discussed at previous meetings. At that time, having some background noise again. I'm going to mute anybody else's microphone that's going, that's not talking. You can unmute when it is your opportunity to talk. So we did already as a commission take a poll, and the outcome of that poll was that a filing was needed for a project of this scope and complexity, both for the Wetlands Protection Act and for the Lunenburg Municipal Bylaw. There's new information before the commission, and with that in mind, I do want to give my fellow commissioners opportunity to weigh in again about whether this needs an RDA filing under either or both the Wetlands Protection Act or the Lunenburg Municipal Bylaws. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to go. I'm assuming my fellow commissioners, I'm looking for a motion, I guess, to take a vote on this. Rich Bursch. Rich, you're on mute.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to advise the applicant that an RDA filing is required at this time.
Thank you, Rich.
A
Do I have-
second.
Okay. Motion by Rich and a second by Mike LaRouche. Okay. Then we'll take a vote. A roll call vote to advise the water district that they need to file an RDA. Rich, in your motion, it was a file an RDA under both the Wetlands Protection and the Municipal Bylaw?
Under the WPA, yes, an RDA filing, and the Wetlands Protect, or the Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Bylaw is just a request for determination, so.
Okay. All right, roll call. Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
All right,
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. Bob Pease has recused himself from this part of the dialogue. Okay, so that's the advisory to the Lunenburg Water District for a need to file an RDA on this project.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'll be in
Thank you
touch
for coming in and going over the scope of the project, because it was a lot to read through. And you know, I'm an engineer. I'm used to reading those kind of complex things, but it's not part of everybody else's day job. So thank you for showing up and giving this overview of that.
Not a problem. I don't know if you know offhand the deadline for the next, or to apply for the next RDA, is that?
I do not, but my fellow commissioners probably do. Can somebody provide that deadline?
Yeah, I believe that it is yesterday for the next meeting, so, and with Anna out, I don't believe we'll get it advertised in time
Gotcha. Okay.
for the May, what would it be, the May 17th meeting, so it'll be the first weekend and first Wednesday in June. Or, yeah, first
I
Wednesday in
think,
June.
I think the next filing deadline will be Monday, May 15th.
Very good.
Thank you, Greg. That was helpful. Thank you, Rich. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Bob, I think I'd like to turn the host responsibility and chair responsibility back over to you at this point in time.
Really?
You do such fine work.
Thank you, Mary. You did a great job.
Thank you. Let's see.
If there's nothing else, we're gonna move on to our first public hearing, which is, I'll read the notice. Oh, I am the host, okay. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Arrive Lunenburg for the proposed addition of sand at the beachfront area and installation of a concrete pad at 1 Lakefront Avenue. Is there someone here to represent Arrive Lunenburg?
Yep. Can you hear me, Bob?
Mark Birch, yes, I can
Yep.
hear you.
Yep.
Oh, can you just give your name and address, Mark?
Sure, Mark Birch, 20 Buttonwood Place, representing Arrive Lunenburg.
Okay, before you continue, Mark, I'm gonna give Rich an opportunity to say something here.
As my brother is representing the applicant, I will recuse myself from this hearing.
Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead and continue.
That's fine. Mr. Chair, I believe you have the supporting documentation.
I do.
I'm looking for two determinations. I actually met two of your members out there for their site meeting, and they kind of have an idea of what we're looking to do. Looking first to add up to 100 cubic yards of sand to the beach for general maintenance. Kind of similar to a request that I came in 2017 on behalf of the town of Lunenburg and the Lions Club for the town beach. And that was for 60 yards of sand for the town beach. And it was to be over the term of the RDA. And I'm looking for 100 cubic yards over the term, whether it be all at once or in stages. I don't anticipate using 100 cubic yards all at once through maintaining the beach. So that was item number 1. I don't know if you or the board has any questions regarding that.
Well, why don't you go on to your concrete pad and then we'll take questions. How's that?
Sure. So the second item is roughly a 20 by 12 concrete pad to have a roof type structure over it to store kayaks for residents of Arrive Lunenburg.
And I had asked the people at home, am I sharing the plan to the screen right now or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. You never can tell if you're the host. So, and so if I look at it correctly, it looks like this concrete pad straddles the 30-foot no disturb line. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So that's really the best location for regular site maintenance, plowing and to get around and not have the structure too close to Lakefront Avenue. If you notice, if you follow the 50-foot line, the actual building off of Prospect Street is within that line as well. So, and I was looking to keep it out of the 35 no touch.
Oh, I'm sorry. So do I have it right that the long dash line is the 30 and
Yeah,
I did not understand that, and that the line with little teeny dashes is the 50.
is the 50. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
And I notice that it includes these carport gazebo diagrams. What has that got to do with this application, Mark?
So that's going to be a roof structure that's going to go over the kayak rack to keep to kind of enclose the kayaks, keep them dry, I guess. That was what was proposed to me. So that's why that is in there. That's going to be put on the concrete pad that will be poured.
Okay. Thank you. Did you advise your clients about the 50-foot no structure zone?
I did. We could move it. This is what makes the most sense. It's not going, it's going on an area that is reground asphalt now. For those that historically remember, that was actually a parking lot back in the day when the water slide was there. So we could move it out of the 50. It kind of makes it harder to maintain, puts it more in the open, makes it more of more noticeable. So I was trying to keep it somewhat camouflaged, keep it within the landscape and not stick it out in the open and not put it too close to the road.
Anything else, Mark?
No, other than on a site visit, there was some talk about mitigating the runoff from the roof. And what I suggest is we just add to your order of conditions that I put stone around the concrete pad to slow the runoff from that area when it falls from the roof.
Thank you. Comments or questions from commissioners? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. The sand that's going to go on the beach is also going to go in the water to make a nice sandy bottom. Is that true, or is it just going to be maintained on the beach?
Just on the beach. We regularly use a soil conditioner on the beach to clean weeds and debris off the beach, and we regularly try to pull the sand that migrates down back up on top of the beach, but no sand will be put into the water directly.
Okay. My other point then would be the concrete pad. I know you're going to put some stone down below, but any kind of heavy rain or runoff is obviously going to run right down, right through that sand and into the water. It looks like half the pad is beyond that 50-foot. If it could just be slid back so that it's outside with some kind of drainage on both sides, I think that would probably serve the project well. That's my thought.
Okay, there is some on-site drainage. Any member may recall that there was significant erosion on the beach probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And we installed a drain with working with then I think Whitman and Bingham, which actually follows the line of the border of the beach and then also goes down the in front of the units. And that seems to have helped significantly on the runoff. So it would catch some of the runoff from the pad, but it looked like more of it might actually go to the left side of my drawing. And you're not going to get much more runoff off the roof than you would off of the pavement that is existing there. So I don't see where you're increasing the water. You may increase a little bit of flow, and that's where putting some stone to mitigate the flow. I don't think you're going to see any significant erosion due to the runoff from the roof structure.
Okay, if it hits the roof and comes down the side, though, you'd create a stream on both sides because the water would collect there. My last point would be this tree, the EX tree. Are you cutting a tree down?
No, that's the whole idea of the location of it, is I'm trying not to take any vegetation down or take the tree down. If I moved it forward, it would be in a much more open area there. It wouldn't be conducive to maintaining around it, especially in the winter time. But if that's what if the call of the board is to put it outside the 50, then I would have to find a location outside the 50.
Okay, thank you. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rich. Mary Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was able to go on the site visit and meet Mark, along with Mike LaRouche, and walk, and he showed us the property. In my opinion, the current parking area is it's regrind, and it's clearly looks like it's a pervious surface. So it's not a solid asphalt surface. And that's fine, right? But I just want the commission to have the benefit of my view, and I'm certain Mike would also be willing to give his view on the walk. It did appear in that area between the parking area and the beach that there's a little bit of a berm, especially as you get closer to the lake. So I do agree with Mark that the natural runoff would be tend to be towards the left, kind of pointy end of the parking area, if you will. I don't really see that the Wetlands Protection Act gives us, the opportunity to add a structure in the no structure zone where there's not an existing structure. And I'm aware of the history of the area, right? And certainly have lived here long enough to have seen at least the old slide, water slide that had been there. Kind of glad that's gone, especially, since was not in service during my tenure here. But it's not a structure now, right? It hasn't been a structure there for a number of years. So, in my opinion, as just one commissioner, is that we would be adding a structure. If we allowed this, we'd be adding the structure in the no structure zone. So I would like to see it outside of the 50-foot no structure zone.
Thank you, Mary. Are
Thank you,
there
Mr.
any other
Chairman.
comments or questions from commissioners? Are there any comments or questions from Mike LaRouche?
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair. I just had a comment and wondered, Mark, would this be possible to, if we were to take the structure, and I realize, I don't know how long ago the structure had been there as far as the water slide, but given that, if you were to move the lower corner of your structure more parallel to the lake, it would move it perhaps out of the 50-foot no structure zone. And by doing so, the tree would not be at issue either. So it's just moving the lower portion of your structure to the point where it's out of the 50. Is that doable, Mark? Have you thought of that?
Yeah. The location of the structure is what makes the most sense from a maintenance perspective, and still even a usability of the parking lot itself there. And I can understand not wanting to add a structure within a 50-foot, but I believe people come in front of the board. I know I did a few years back for an addition that was inside the 50-foot. So, it is at the board's purview to allow that. I'm gonna go back to my client with whatever your decision is, and then they're gonna have to decide whether they still want to do it. If you say I have to put it up the entirety outside the 50, then it's up to them to decide where they want to put it. It just for flow of traffic, ease of use of the property, that was really the best location. for that. But if the board says put it outside the 50, then I'll go back to my client. We're gonna have to figure out an area outside the 50 if they still want to do it at that point. You know, if you move the rectangle around anywhere there, you consider the flow of traffic and consider the use of the property. Where I located it was best for the use of the property. I understand it's not best for the bylaw or wetlands protection. But again, that's why I located it there. And again, we'd really locate it outside the property if the board chose outside the 50, if the board chooses that as a requirement.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from members of the public? Seeing none, I would just comment, Mark, that there's you know, as far as the sand, right now it just says you're gonna add sand to the beach area up to 100 cubic yards.
And that would be over the term of the determination when it is. So yeah, again, that's at the purview of the board if they want to limit to a certain amount per season. That's
Well, I just think, I mean, as chair, I'll be looking for a motion to take and say that, you know, ask someone if, when they make a motion that they take, and they mention something about the timing of, you know, the addition of sand and that it's capped at 100 cubic yards, you know, for the next 3 years, because that's the duration of the RDA.
Yep.
Will you go with that?
I'd be fine with that. We did something when we did the drainage, we added sand
Yep.
years ago for that. And I know we used about 40 yards when we did that.
Yep.
So. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion on this RDA. Mark, let me ask you a different question. If, as I expect is gonna happen, someone's gonna make a motion that the pad has to be moved out of the 50-foot no structure. Are you gonna wanna go back to your clients and then come back, or you know, if we just give a you know, give a negative determination with the caveat that it's moved out of the 50, you know, would you be good to go?
I think I'd be good to go. I'd go back to them and we'd have to see about a location, and then I would probably confirm and have Anna come out and confirm the location that she's comfortable on behalf of the board that it's outside the 50, if that was gonna be the requirement.
Okay. So I guess at this point then I'm looking for a motion that has 2 conditions. The first condition would be that the concrete pad be moved out of the 50-foot no structure zone, and that a revised diagram be submitted before the commission signs off. And also that the stand would be a maximum of 100 yards over the 3-year life of the RDA. Would anyone care to make a motion?
So
or a different
moved.
Motion. Go
So
ahead.
moved. This is Mary.
And Mike seconds.
All right, so made by Mary, seconded by Mike. Roll call. Jeff?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
And I for myself. Any questions, Mark?
No, so basically I just need to submit a plan to Anna that
Yep.
it would show that it's outside the 50.
Yep.
And then everything else is as the motion was made.
Yep.
Yep, no, I'm fine with that. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Mark. So on to the next agenda item. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. In the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Thomas and Melanie Payne for the proposed construction of a replacement landscape wall with two sections. A replacement wall 56 feet in length and a replacement of a set of concrete stairs at 649 Reservoir Road. And it has a DEP number of 2081288. And has anyone looked to see what the DEP's comments were? I bet there was none.
No, no, there were. I think there were.
Okay, good. Well, let's,
I'm
all
trying to call them, find them.
right,
Actually, the comment was for 649. 647 had no comments. 649
Okay.
had comments.
Thank you, Matt.
okay, Matt, does it make sense to do these together in one hearing or to do them in two separate hearings?
We can do them together if the commission so wishes. I mean, they are adjacent properties and the work is basically all the same.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. In the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. But this one doesn't, does this one have a DEP number yet?
They both do.
Oh, they do.
The main house was the one with the comments. The cottage had no comments.
Notice of intent by Christopher and Andrea Oldham for the proposed construction of a deck and various site improvements, including a stone walkway, permeable stone patios, and significant landscaping at 32 Pine Grove Road, DEP number 208. And the full number does not appear on the agenda.
Nope, that's another hearing. The
Oh.
hearing I filed for was for 647 and 649.
Oh, then I
So-
screwed up here.
That's okay.
Oh, I skipped over, I think. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Section, let's see. 647, which one did I read before? 647?
You read 647.
All right, well, we're gonna push the reset button and now, read pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on notice of intent by Thomas and Melanie Payne for the proposed construction of a replacement landscape wall with two sections, a replacement wall 56 feet in length and a replacement of a set of concrete stairs at 649 Reservoir Road. I know I read that one. The other one is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a notice of intent by Thomas and Melanie Payne for the proposed construction of 3 replacement retaining walls, a replacement patio, and a set of replacement stone stairs at 647 Reservoir Road. So to be clear, we now have 2 open hearings. 647 Reservoir Road, DEP number 2081289, and 649 Reservoir, DEP number 2081288. Matt, would you like to give your name and address? And
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Matt Mauro. I am an environmental consultant and old Italian curmudgeon representing Hale Loco and Thomas and Melanie Payne. I am from an environmental firm known as Matthew S. Mauro Environmental Consulting in Leominster, Massachusetts. And if I may share my screen?
You may.
Thank you. So. Okay, so what you see before you are, it's one plan for both notices of intent. This is the cottage at 649 Reservoir Road. I believe the commission may remember doing field inspections on this cottage originally. A couple of years back, it had a septic replacement on it. Behind the cottage, it was a very unique setup that David Ross had done. There is a house right next to it, which is 647 Reservoir Road. And essentially what the project is for, it's for the replacement of existing walls on the property, which are already fieldstone, 647 being here and here. And with a replacement of granite, with the steps here with granite, new granite, there would be no expansion of walls, no expansion of height, no expansion on the stairway. It's essentially just a wall-for-wall replacement. This particular area that you see here on the screen is a concrete retaining area. This is land here. The water is essentially here. I have some pictures I can show the commission later, and I do believe that Mary had also taken some photos while we were on site over the weekend. On 647 Reservoir Road, the main house, the house is essentially house and deck is here. So we have a yard area with an existing wall here. This little indent right here that was a possible grill location, I put an X through it because it's been eliminated from the plan. So the wall that exists now will simply be replaced with a new fieldstone wall, and the steps that are in play will be replaced with new granite steps, which will be of the same dimension. So there won't be any expansions on the stairways. Now, we have a 15-foot section of wall that is existing that we're looking to replace. And I know this says 50, but if you look at the notice of intent narrative, there is an exposed shoreline here, which I will show you in pictures, that has no structure on it right now. And we're looking to do a very small fieldstone addition here to stabilize that shoreline. And I can go over that with you in the pictures. This area here, there's no construction proposed. This is essentially the pathway to the dock. This area is lawn, nothing is proposed over here. It would remain here. In the pictures, you're going to see two large evergreen shrubs here that lean against the wall. In order for this section of wall to be replaced, those shrubs would have to be removed because the root systems are actually growing into the wall. I'll go to the pictures here. I'm going to stop share because a lot of times on this computer, when I go to tabs, it doesn't switch over. So if you could bear with me for just one moment. Okay. So this is the cottage area right here. These are the two shrubs I was referring to here. You can see the section of wall that goes up and then continues on back is in the diagram. Here's the corner, goes over here. This is actually part of 647 Reservoir, was the 15-foot section of existing wall that I have a better view of. I will show you in a few minutes. These are the steps that are going to be replaced with new granite steps. They will be replaced in kind at the same time that this section of wall is replaced with new fieldstone wall. And here is a better profile section. It shows the length of wall here. You can see the concrete structure I referred to on the water here and the land area with a platform that's currently on it here. This is the wall that's going to be replaced. At 649, it will be replaced in kind. Again, there's no dimensional change. There is no elevation change. Everything is going to remain into the same dimensions. So I'm going to, again, switch it over to the other house and reshare. Thank you for bearing with me on the screen sharing. You know, my screen sharing skills have always been in question, so doing the best I can here.
Better you than me.
Okay. So this is the existing dock here. There is an existing open area. One of the part of the proposal calls for a 12 by 20 foot paver patio. They're requesting to be put over here. Let's see, let me flip to the picture. You can see here, this existing area is about the same dimension as the requested paver patio. This section over here by the dock is going to be covered with loam seed and stabilized. So essentially, we're taking this and relocating it farther away and taking it away from the water's edge. This is the 49-foot section of area. These blocks here indicate there may have been something there years ago. I do not know and could not say that definitively. But if you walk the site and you walk this area right here, what you're seeing is that because of there's a large wake action going on this lake currently. And with the way that tends to work, with the way the wake hits here, it's actually kind of collapsing the lawn over here. So what would happen is this area would basically be pulled up and a fieldstone would be put in its place. Now, fieldstone does have when we do this, like right here in this particular section, it does have some ecological advantages. Again, there's going to be no height elevation change. There's going to be no filling of land. It's essentially just going to be put in place of what's there now as an eroded area. So in this area, the fieldstone generally has several benefits. One, it makes an excellent transition zone for terrestrial, critters that, tend to run across the lawn, go into the water, go in, go out. It would provide a more solid footing for them than, say, concrete. Concrete is usually tended to be, shall I say, discouraged in these areas. The second thing is considering the wake action and the known erosion issues that are over in this section of Lake Shirley. Stabilizing this area to prevent further erosion actually will help in the long term with fish spawning areas that may be nearby. Sediment caused from erosion of land around the water body actually would cause some problems for the fish spawning areas in the future. So this actually would help to stabilize that. Here's another close-up of how it is being undermined here. Again, I did the reverse profile so you can see the exposed area here that will be loomed and seeded. There is no plan to do any change out of the docks. And here's the area you can see because now the shoreline is actually uneven. So the fieldstone would even it out. There would be nothing pushed out into the water. It would basically be the way Brett does his walls. He tends to, pull the land back and then put it back where it was. So, I mean, essentially that's kind of it. I'll put the plan back up. You guys want to refer to that. And thank you for bearing with my wonderful sharing skills. I appreciate it. And I'm open to any questions. The comments that the state had was twofold. One, they were giving the commission an option for a wildlife habitat evaluation on here because they are considering the replacement wall in addition to the 49 feet here to be over 50. So I don't think the habitat myself is necessary. I think I've gone into the benefits of actually putting this area here. It's naturalized. If the commission wishes, we can keep this area as is for now, this 15 foot, and just leave it alone. I did talk to Mr. Rabula about it. He said, he didn't have a problem with it. Mr. Rabula being the DEP reviewer, he said it's essentially a commission option. It's up to you guys what you want to do. The second comment was the potential for a Chapter 91 waterways filing. And I reminded Tom that Lake Shirley is not a great pond. He looked it up in his list while we were on the phone. He confirmed. So that comment actually is no longer applicable to this file. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Matt. Can you show us on the plan I see a line that goes through part of the plan that says the 30-foot buffer. Is there a line on the plan that shows the 30-foot buffer?
This is the 30-foot buffer right here. It basically bisects both lots in this direction. The 50-foot buffer would essentially be up just behind the stone wall here.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. Down on by that 50-foot wall, the new one that's being proposed. Do you have?
It's actually 49 feet. I clarified that in the narrative. Sorry about that.
No problem. Any idea approximately how high you think that's going to be?
It's going to be the same height as what the bank is now. So basically like a foot. It's not going to be that big. It's made to both give it an aesthetic look and to stabilize that shoreline. It's not made to build the property up.
Okay. Now traveling to the left, I see the walkway that goes out to where the dock connects. And then, then the other 10 foot, I think, if I'm reading that correctly, that's the other retaining wall, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if the commission wishes, we can leave that in place if you feel it's necessary. I think it can be safely replaced. It's an existing wall now. And as you saw, it was basically locked in blocks. I actually think the fieldstone would be better.
All right. So the walkway itself between these two walls, the one that will be built and this one, what's the height status there?
Okay, so there's no walkway being proposed here. I don't know why this was drawn in the plan in the way it was. It was an attempt to illustrate what the dock is. The dock is basically out here. There's nothing proposed in here.
So there'd be no wall connecting those two, the 10-foot and the 49
No,
foot.
there would be no wall connecting those two.
Okay. Now the moving up at the end of that walkway, or I know it's not a walkway, but we just talked about the patio. The patio is all new construction?
It is new construction. It is made to replace, if I can just stop again and pull up the pictures. Just bear with me for a second. Again, I've never been rapid fire on screen share, so I'm getting better though. So the patio is proposed to be over here. It would be in the same dimensions as this existing area here, which is basically just sand, some brick kind of loosely put around it, and nothing else. So this would be removed. It would be loomed and seated over during the placement of the rocks along here, and kept as lawn. You can see the area where you had, I don't know why it was drawn that way, but this was showing, it was an attempt to show where the dock is located, which is essentially right next to this open area here. That's why there would be no wall connecting that and that area right there. So it would essentially come this way 49 feet up to the dock area. This would be loomed and seated. And then the 15-foot wall is behind. Actually, I think that 15-foot wall is better shown on the other plan, on the other NOI, because of the proximity of those lots. So again, thank you. I hope I'm not getting anyone dizzy by my constant bitching, switching back and forth here. Here's the 15-foot section of wall. You can see where it connects from. Here's one lot, here's the cottage lot. This is what's in there now, and we would propose to replace it with fieldstone.
And that'd be the same height too, you're making. no
Yeah, no,
change.
nothing would change. I mean, this floodplain basically goes up just above the shoreline, so we can't change it. I noted that in the notice of intent narrative. The narrative actually has the mass mapper showing exactly where that limit of flood area goes. It's like right at the shoreline. Actually, you know what? I can believe I have it on here. Can you guys can see me scrolling this, right?
Yep.
Yep.
We can.
Because my computer gets funny that way.
We're all looking away so we don't get dizzy.
Yeah, I was born dizzy, so it doesn't bother me much, so. Again, thank you for bearing with me here. So you can see here's 647, here is 649. The floodplain just comes up just above the shoreline. This is a 500-year flood zone. That's actually not 100-year floodplain, but the blue hatch line is where it comes. So in order for this to get the DEP numbers, we had to note in the notice of intent narrative, and it's noted on the actual plan. And I believe I have a not as good to read copy down here. And again, thank you guys for being very patient. It's noted right on the plan, no raise or change in existing elevation. So there's no raise or change in any of those elevations proposed. The elevations would remain in place. All of this other work over here, minus the relocation of the patio area, all of this work here is essentially replacing existing in kind, including the staircase. There's no expansion of the structures. There's no change in elevation. You're taking what's existing wall now and making it existing wall. The fieldstone, as you could see on the photos, is getting pretty dilapidated here. It doesn't look like there was back drainage put in. It wasn't installed very correctly. And I believe Commissioners Wilson and LaRouche will agree that when we stood behind the fence, you could see where the holes were starting to come into the ground and actually starting to undermine in the grass space behind those rails.
Can we see your drawing just one more time? I have one final question.
Yep. Okay. One more second here. There you go.
Great, thank you. I
Thank you for your
understand-
patience.
Okay, I understand that sandy area down by the water is going to be loomed and seeded. But the construction up here of this patio, that's like all new construction that extends, well, we know it extends into the 30. Is all of it at the 50 mark inside the 50-foot as well?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're taking an existing nonconformity and moving it out farther away from the water and actually making it more of a pervious environment, where right here you have something that's highly erodible. So we're basically taking one area out and moving it up farther. The area is more functional, it will still be stable, and it will essentially get rid of this area here.
Okay, thank you. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rich. Other questions or comments from members of the commission?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
This is Mary. Matt, one question I have for you is that area that you were just talking about, where there's the, kind of the carve out that looks like a little beach area. Beach area is, highly pervious. Brick pavers, not so much. I'm trying to reconcile in my head how that's a swap out.
Well, essentially, the pavers are actually semi-pervious surfaces. They're made to allow for water to go in through it. So essentially, if you look at it, it actually would essentially, Commissioner, I'm a trained stormwater person. I'm EPA certified in stormwater. One of the known things about paver patios and paved surfaces is they actually will absorb at least 50% of what is done for precipitation on it. You still have a sufficient lawn area that will be gone. And where I'm waving my cursor right now, while you may consider it pervious, it's also erodible, and it's right on the edge of the water. So what you're doing is basically trade out for trade out, and you're essentially taking an area that's highly erodible and contributing to the problem and just moving it farther away from the water.
But wouldn't the wall accommodate for that erosion and correct it?
Not necessarily, no. If that area is left in there, no, not necessarily. Because you have to understand that has a mild slope, and it does have some erosion from it now. And rather than continuing to do beach nourishment or something like that within the area, which I know, the commission does allow in an existing area, as long as you're not doing a beach expansion. Instead of continuing that scenario, you now have more filtration by line.
Okay, and how much of the brick paver patio is inside the 30? It's not clear to me from the drawing.
You're talking about a 6-foot length by 20-foot length.
Okay.
So essentially what I'm saying is you have an existing nonconformity here. So we're taking that nonconformity and moving it. We're not expanding it. We're actually moving it farther away from the water, which has in the past been allowed under your bylaw. If there's any other part of it you want to discuss, I'd be more than open to it.
No, you answered my questions. The trees that are being removed, are those going to be replaced?
I don't recommend replacing them over by the wall, but I can work with Anna in coming up with a better spot to place new plantings on the property. And there's only 2 of them, so I would replace them with 2 of them. They're basically cedar.
Okay. And I would look for them to be replaced consistent with the formulary that's in the bylaws.
Mhm.
So I don't know
Well,
what the
they're
dimension of
shrubs.
those.
They're shrubs,
plants
but they're
are-
not trees. They're not trees. They're tall shrubs. They're cedar shrubs. Yeah,
I've
let
always
me go.
called cedar trees, but I'm not an expert.
Here you go. These are shrubs. They're like giant arborvitaes.
Okay. Yeah, I would be looking for those to be replaced. And so with that small section of wall that's between the deck and the
This,
southern side,
you mean this section right here, the
you're
15-foot
not
section?
sharing it.
You're not sharing right now, Matt.
Sorry, guys. You get used to just flipping through and then you forget you don't have your screen sharing on.
Yeah,
you're essentially
yeah.
talking
So
right
that
here.
block wall right there, I
Yep.
thought that looked like that was in disrepair and it was, not perpendicular. And I'm glad. I think you should go ahead and replace that as one commissioner, because you don't replace it this year, probably within the next 3 or 4, it's going to have to be replaced anyway.
I agree.
So that's my thought there. Having walked the property and looked to see how wonky that particular item looked.
And actually, again, when I talked about, when I spoke about terrestrial migration, I would think fieldstone would actually be better than what's here now.
And the fieldstone that's actually going to be proposed to replace that, then on the north side of that dock there, that's not going to be cemented. Fieldstone is going to be like a dry stack or dry lay.
He dry stacks everything. As a matter of fact, I believe the plan said dry stack wall.
Okay. I noticed the upper one said cemented, and so that's why I was just asking for that
The
clarification.
landscape walls, he will cement behind it, but the front face of it will be the stacked wall. So in other words, he does like an apron behind for drainage coming off something that's going to retain that much balanced fill. If it's not along a shoreline, if it's holding back land, he'll do it that way. But the plan, I'm trying to pull it up again. And as you guys probably remember, at least most of you do, my screen sharing skills were often wanting. There we go. Right here, dry stacked.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And that applies to on the other side of the deck as well.
It also says right here, dried stacked.
Okay. It says it there, says it down below, and so I'm just going to assume it applies to that little section that's currently blocked, and that's fine. No corrective, or is there no corrective actions there? I just want to make certain I'm clear. Is there any other vegetation like shrubs and stuff that's being disrupted and not planned to be replaced?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I would be looking for those cedar plants to be replaced. That's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Mike LaRouche has been waiting patiently.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt, I'm just curious on the height of those field stones that you want to put along the edge of the lake. How thick will that be? How wide will it be? And we are talking 49 feet of field stone, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So as far as the actual dimensions of the rocks, I can't answer that question intelligently. That would be up to Brett to answer, but I can tell you based on my experiences in dealing with them. If I can go back to the picture that I had of what is on that site right now, if you would indulge me. Essentially what he's got out here now is generally the type of rock he uses. These flat ones he doesn't have a tendency to use, but the bigger ones he does. In the area over at the 49 feet, they're not slated to, again, go over that bank. So you're not going to see any backfilling or anything like that. It's basically just going to be tucked into the bank, is what it is. It's going to be stacked right into the bank.
So are we just talking one field stone or many of them in the 49 feet? Or are we talking about a couple fieldstone to make some sort of stepping?
No, he's probably gonna go up probably 3 or 4 because he's gonna have to dig in, because you have to lay a foundation down underneath. If you don't
Okay.
lay a foundation down underneath, just stacking on the shoreline, it does no good. Your first really violent storm, they're just gonna wash into the lake. So like right under here, he would basically dig a little bit under here and add, stack some stones like a foundational area, but it won't go over. I'm just sorry to make you dizzy again, Mike. I apologize. I just want to get up the picture as a good example for you. Can you see that, Mike? Mike, is that
Yes.
picture visible? Okay, so
Yes.
essentially your top of elevation is essentially right here. It's not going to go over
Okay.
that. It's
All
not going
right.
to change that. So this yard's
So
not
you're
gonna go
talking about maybe 4 to 6 inches?
about a foot.
So we're talking a foot.
It's about a
Okay.
foot.
I guess I have an issue putting something down that's never been there. And even though it might be, make sense for wildlife to enter and exit the lake, I just want to know how we can reconcile putting something down as a structure or as a wall. Can we use the word wall where there hasn't been one before? Help me reconcile that with our regulations about doing that.
Well, I mean, it's not something you guys haven't allowed in the past. The example I used for you, for example, is Flynn Road. You had about, I don't know, 200 feet or 300 feet of wall that was allowed to be placed in because of shoreline stabilization issues. So, Commissioner, when we were out on site, you probably remember I pointed out how soft this area was and the fact that the lawn is actually collapsing because of the wake action. So what's happening is putting in this naturalized area, it's going to act like a naturalized stone bank. So it won't sacrifice the habitat value. You'll still be able to get terrestrial migration from in and out of the water by small critters. What it will stop, as you can see here, there's a lot of erosion that's been going on here over the years. And allowing stuff like this to continue going into the lake on a lawn area like this, it's just going to continue to wash sediment into the lake. And one of the major ecological benefits of walls like this to solve erosion problems, again, is for protection of the land underwater and fish spawning areas that may be nearby. Because you do have some other, I guess you can call them coves, that where the water tends to still. And the last thing you want, I mean, we were standing there, the water was actually up here. And if you recall, there was a boat that went by and it was off in the distance. And all three of us remarked about how could a boat be out there on that day because it was really cold out. The one thing I did note was, despite the distance of that boat, it left there was a lot of wake coming on into that property. It had a pretty good wave slap action. And that's something you want to take care of. I mean, I'm not saying go in and put concrete all over the place. The fieldstone does help, and there are areas where it is appropriate, and I believe this to be one of them.
I understand the need for something, Matt, but I just need to reconcile if there's nothing there, now you want to put something there. That seems to be in our regulations, not generally allowed, but if someone else can help me here, I'd be glad to listen to some other commissioner's view on this.
If I may, before the commission goes into it, Mike?
Matt?
Yep.
Why don't we, let's see if anybody else wants
All right.
wants to help Mike out here. And if
Of
no one
course.
else wants to help Mike out, I will. See, Mike,
Can't hear you, Bob.
Hey, Bob, your sound went off.
Son of a gun.
It's back.
Is it back?
It's
You're
back
back.
now.
All right. I didn't know I was gone. Oh, I just got a note that my internet connection is unstable.
Ooh.
We quite often, Mike, have in the past have allowed people to place stones along the edge to prevent erosion. We have the example that Matt just gave on Flynn Road, where we had a bank that was coming up out of the water, and Brett built but generally we don't call them walls. We don't allow the construction of walls where there wasn't a wall before. We allow stone so that it's sloped. In this instance here, looking at, in my opinion, there'd probably just be one set of stones. It'd be less than a foot high. And, if I was, and I'm sure Brett would use larger stones, so they're not going to get moved around by the wave action. So it'll really be more of a single line of stones, in my opinion, than a stack set of stones. If you go around Hickory Hills Lake as part of the lake management plan, we encourage people to take what happened. Hickory Hills Lake is a relatively young lake at less than 100 years old. And if you go around the edge, you can see everywhere, and we don't even have big wakes because we have a 9.8 horsepower limit. But you can see all around the edge where the bank has been undercut by the little teeny waves we have here. We don't have wake boats. And, so if you take and you shove a stone in, so the vegetation is the only thing holding the soil together, and you have the shelf of vegetation that sticks out over the water. So if you take and come along and shove a rock underneath the vegetation shelf, you're protecting the shoreline. You're still allowing, you've actually improved the critter habitat. And you're gonna end up with less stuff in the lake. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's my perspective, Mike.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there is essentially what Matt is suggesting is there's going to be a 12-inch wall along 49 feet of the
Well,
shoreline that hasn't had a wall in the past. So I'm just saying, for all of the right reasons for the critter migration and for the wakes that are going to be occurred, it's certainly going to help that. But I just can't get over the notion that we're going to allow a 12-inch wall that's never been there, where we probably wouldn't allow anyone else to do. But as a commission, are we okay with that we're going to set a precedent here, as we did with Flynn Road? I just don't know how we can do that, but
Well, I mean, I can understand your trepidation as far as,
Matt,
go ahead.
I want to listen. I want to hear from more commissioners.
All right, I didn't think anyone else had a comment. I'm sorry.
And they may not, but this back and forth, I don't know, is adding to the to the deliberations. Jeff Viviano.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a few questions through you for Matt, if you could. From what I'm looking at Google Maps, the wall down by the shoreline seems to be angling out into the lake. Looks to be about 6 or 8 feet. In other words, it's pushed further back from the house itself. And I could share my screen if you'd want to look at like an aerial.
We're gonna okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
So All right. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you can kind of see the wall. It angles out, you know, from the property on the right-hand side of the screen. It angles up towards the house. And it kind of intersects that dock about 2/3 of the way up. And the wall that you're proposing is essentially from the right side straight over to that existing wall over by the dock. So it seems like that the wall that you want to place is actually further into the lake. Does that make sense to you, Matt? Does that seem like what you'd like to do?
Well, we're not actually going further into the lake. If you look at the right-hand section of that lot and you compare it to the left-hand section of the 15-foot section of wall actually is farther out. The wall area that I'm proposing, and it kind of goes back. I mean, essentially, there's no work proposed in the water itself. The shoreline would essentially be dug back and the wall placed right in place where it is now.
But I guess what I'm saying is the wall that you have sketched is straight from that right property line over to that existing wall on the left. And that's not the existing lawn line right now. It extends into the lake about, I would say about 6 or 8 feet down by that dock.
And I would agree with Jeff. And I would just mention, Matt, that in my humble opinion, in my humble opinion, we need a better diagram. The diagram takes and shows like a side, what you could interpret to be a sidewalk area. I agree with Mary about that sand is not equivalent to patio. I just want to mention that right up front. You know, I let everybody else comment first, but I just want to throw in my 2 cents there. And I agree with Mary about the replacement of the shrubs. Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? Are there any comments or questions from members of the public? It is my opinion. What I'm gonna do is take a straw poll now. Are we prepared to vote on these NOIs tonight? The 2 different NOIs, or would we like to defer and continue and see if there is if we can get a better diagram before the next meeting that shows the 30, the 50 across the entire front, that accurately shows where the angle of the existing waterfront and doesn't show what appears to be a sidewalk area. I'm sorry, Jeff, you still have your hand up? Did you?
I did. I lost the Zoom meeting there. I had to re-sign in, so I guess I missed some of your comments there. I apologize for that, but I did have some other questions.
You then go, and I apologize, you go right ahead.
I guess I would be in favor of the wall by the lake if it's limited to 1 feet. The other question I have is on erosion, Matt. Do you have any kind of erosion control in place down by the lake?
We would have an erosion curtain put in.
Okay,
So-
so that's not shown on the plan.
Now I can have that changed.
Would this be done during drawdown?
Yeah, it would have to be done during drawdown.
Okay.
Brett does
I think the upper
not like
walls
to.
could probably
The
be
upper
done.
walls could, yeah, but the
Yeah.
wall in the water, yeah, he doesn't like working. It's just counterproductive to push the water back. It's a lot
Yeah,
easier
it's
during
so-
drawdown.
It's so close to where the lake level, actually the lake level is right now, probably up on its grass, the way that
Mhm.
we've had rain lately. But that picture that I had was actually from that map viewer that we have. That's a great application. It was just taken, I think, the 28th of last month. So you can see the water is right up to the grass currently. And if he is going to dig down a couple of feet to put that wall in, that trench will be full of water. So it'd have to be done during drawdown. Is there any kind of barrier to be placed behind that wall to prevent further erosion in the future?
The way he does this, it basically would have like gravel behind it so that it would allow to perk through the wall, the rock itself. It's a dry stack, but it's also, pervious, so the water will go right through it. That's the
But he
way it's
uses-
supposed to be.
I mean, I know Brett usually uses like a heavy landscape fabric behind the wall and then backfills up against that landscape fabric with stone.
Correct.
So me personally, I'd like to see that on the plan. The tree replacements, I think 2 in kind would be good, about the same distance from the water. And
Yeah, I just would like to have them moved over. I'd like to have them move to a different spot, because what you don't want to do is those are right next to the existing
Yeah.
wall over on 649. And you're just going to ask for the same problem to develop.
Yeah, it'll start, undermining that wall. So yeah, they'll have to be placed in a different location. So where the patio you have drawn, it looks like that part of the yard is an incline. You said it was a slight
Correct.
incline.
Correct.
So will there be any kind of filling in there to make the patio level, or is the patio going to
No, just
fall?
loop.
But
You're
if
talking about the
if
existing one.
So off that 12-foot going towards the lake that the patio extends from that retaining wall, how much slope do you lose there? Is it a foot? Is it 2
Oh.
feet?
Okay, so the proposed new one, the area is flat. The existing one is at an incline. So the yard basically goes flat to a certain point and then starts to slope down a little bit. But in
Okay,
that
so you
area,
won't
it's
have-
flat.
You
So
won't
there's
have to
nothing.
do any
No,
filling
it would be
up in
dug
there.
into the
Okay.
ground. There wouldn't be any filling or elevation change.
Okay. And then the other thing I noticed was there's a suction line coming through. Is that for irrigation?
A suction line coming through. You're talking about the cottage or the house?
I think it was the house in the existing retaining wall. That's about 40 feet from the lake. It looked like there
That
was a
was
suction
a
line.
drain coming. That was a drain meant for the wall, because if you actually stood up on 649 of the cottage, you stood up on the yard on the railing behind where that existing wall is now. And just a reminder, that wall is not in anything to do with the bank of the water, but it is being undermined because it was poorly designed or put together as far as drainage goes. So that was installed as kind of like a makeshift, let's keep it from going any further, but it's still dying a slow death.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Because a lot of times people, they use a suction line in the water to irrigate, lawns, because at least I know a lot of the homes around my area, we only get about 5 gallons a minute. And if you're trying to water your lawn, and you're just going to run your well dry. So a lot of us just kind of put suction lines in. That's what I thought it was. So I was just wondering if there's a plan to replace that. So that was it for my comments. And just to recap, the wall seems to be angling towards the lake. I'd like to limit the height of that wall to 1 feet, just so it doesn't get 2 feet, and then things start to get crazy once we set precedent there. So I guess that sandy area, if you can have a dimension of that you're going to be filling in and looming and seeding, the erosion control, the barrier behind the lake wall, tree replacements done during drawdown. I think that's about it on my list. That's it, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Mike, did you have more comments? If not, I was going to do a straw poll, but you're welcome to make more comments.
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to do a straw poll of the members now and ask 2 questions. Number 1, would they like to see us, or actually I'm going to ask 3 questions. Number 1, would they like to see to continue so we can get some better diagrams? Number 2, do they agree that, how do they feel about the addition of this patio? And number 3, I would propose that the rocks along the edge of the lawn be no higher than 10 inches. Never mind a foot. I mean, I think if you put a foot there, it's gonna be, you're gonna be, you know, it'll be like a wall, but, so let's start with Rich Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd certainly like to wait for some more specific diagrams on this. My feeling on the patio is I'd like to see a pervious patio setup with the pervious bricks and the pervious filling. I am not in favor of any of it in the 30-foot no-touch zone. As far as the wall in the front, I'm assuming that it's just going to be dry lay mat on the ground up in front of or pulling the grass back, so it's not going to have a footing or anything.
I'm sorry, for which area, Rich?
The 49-foot wall along the grassed edge at the water, the high
Yeah,
water.
it's not gonna have like a formal footing, like, say, like a concrete wall would, no.
Okay, so it's not going to be dug in at all. It's just going to be there for providing protection for wave action.
Correct.
Okay. And a diagram of that, a cross section of how he's going to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did I answer all three of your questions?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
So Jeff, could you respond to those three straw poll questions?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with the diagrams that are drawn. They're pretty well detailed. There's existing walls there that are just going to be replaced. I know that, you know, we have a good aerial view of what it looks like now. We can compare that to what's actually built. So I guess I'm good with the diagrams. It's a very large expense. And I just can't see that in this application. I think the patio, yeah, we've kind of leaned towards, you know, keeping patios outside the 30-foot and making sure that they're pervious. You know, that we use sand in between the pavers, and then as far as the wall height, I just suggested a foot. I mean, I live right across the lake from them, and there's serious wave action. And, you know, if it's anything less than, I would say, like a foot, the waves are just going to go up over the wall, and then you're going to be having erosion behind the wall occurring as that wave action runs down back over the wall. So
Yeah, if you do anything under a foot, I mean, you might as well just not do anything, because it's not gonna retain, it's not going to stop anything. So that's my take on that.
yeah, so I mean, personally, it really needs to be at least, you know, about a foot over the current lake level, you know, at least, because, you know, on windy days, we'll have 2-foot white caps out there. And in this north basin, the other basin's not as much. There's not a, you know, a lot of area for that wind to pick up across. And this, you know, this west side of the lake really gets those, you know, northwesterly winds during the heavy storms. You know, it rarely blows very hard out of the southeast. So the other side of the lake, not much erosion, but on the south and west sides, there's considerable erosion, in my opinion. So I think that's your three questions, Bob.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much, Jeff, and thank you for the local insight into the wave issues there, which I was not aware of.
Yep,
Katie
no problem.
Childs.
I would like to see some more detail in the diagrams. I would like to see a pervious patio outside the 30-foot, and just based on what everyone is saying about like the wave action at the site and everything, I think 1 foot would be good for the rocks.
Thank you, Katie. Very succinct. Mike LaRouche.
I think the patio of impervious material outside the 30 is a good idea. And better detail on this wall, which is, and was it presented as a wall to the DEP, by the way? I mean, that's my question. And if a 12-foot wall is not going to stop the water from coming through, should we not be asking for something, you know, cut some of the lawn and make a structure that will handle the wake? That's just something out there. I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench in this project, but you know, what I've heard from everyone, that 10 inches is not going to be enough, at least 12 inches. It sounds like, you probably need something beyond 12 inches to actually work. So I'm thinking maybe the wall's not the best idea for this, this application, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Mike. Mary Wilson.
So I'd like to see new drawings with the corrections as discussed tonight. I would like to see a patio of pervious material constrained to be outside of the 30-foot, and the wall height of 1 foot seems like the right thing to do in my mind.
Thank you, Mary. Rich Tremblay.
Thank you. I'd like to see an updated diagram as well. I'd like it to include the items that we spoke about this evening and the location of these trees that we know we're not going to put back in the original spot. The patio, I'd like to see that pulled outside the 30-foot. I think that's important. And as far as the wall height, I would say wall not to exceed 12 inches, but I'd like to see a breakdown of that wall. Are we going to put anything behind those stones for drainage or to help with erosion? How are we going to actually construct this wall? Because there seems to be a lot of questions in that area as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. So Matt, what I take away from this is that, we'd like to see a new diagram that takes, that eliminates what appears to be a sidewalk down to the edge, but, it's not, that, shows the edge of the lawn at the correct angle, so it matches, what's actually existing there, that it doesn't go straight across, that shows a profile of the walls that are being, rebuilt, or the new walls, and and shows, like where the replacement plants would go for those arborvitaes, and that has some comments on it about the schedule, when this work would occur. Any questions, Matt, before I look for motions to continue?
No, but I do have one question.
Sure.
All of the comments that you're focusing on focuses mostly on the house. As there's no work along the shoreline on the cottage, and there was no comment from DEP, and the work is pretty clear cut, even with the diagrams involved. I was wondering if we could approve the cottage, which is 649, continue 647, and have those diagrams updated, because those are the areas the commission is concentrating on.
I personally, as one member, see the logic in your proposal. Would anyone like to make a motion on the cottage, which is
649.
649? Jeff Viviano. Jeff Viviano.
Yeah, if I just have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Where would the erosion control be if that project was started?
So if I could share my screen again. Here is the top of the concrete wall along that property. The area, this is an area where you get the wall here, you've got the area landmass here that I showed you. So we would put the erosion protection from here all the way out through here in an arc. And this would protect that entire area.
So
Okay, that answers my question.
thank you. And Matt, I neglected to say anything about erosion control, on the diagram in my previous comments.
I had that noted down because Jeff made the comment.
Mary Wilson.
Yeah, it was my understanding for the cottage that the 3 trees would have to be removed to do that work, even though they're on the property of the other parcel. Is that correct understanding?
Actually, no, you are correct, but I mean, we can leave that section of wall alone until 647 is complete.
And do we have a schedule, Matt, of when they would want to take and do the work on the cottage part?
Well, there's no drawdown required, so if you guys grant an order, it would have to go through the required appeal period, and then I would have to record it. So you're talking probably another 3 to 4 weeks before he could even think of doing any work because of those time periods.
Okay. Thank you. Rich Tremblay, did you have something else you wanted to say here? Or
Yeah,
make a
just,
motion or something?
look, no, just a clarification, if you could. We agreed to hear these as one item. We can split them apart at this time?
Well, no, what I agreed to take in, what I did was I opened both hearings because there's a lot of overlap between, I mean, both applications are on the same diagram. And so we legally can't handle them as one item. Any motion, there'll be 2 separate motions. But I opened the hearings because it made sense to me, you know, from a time perspective to do both, you know, both hearings concurrently, since we're both looking at the same, you know, the same diagrams, and there's an interaction between the 2 applications, you know, like the shrubs along the wall, which,
Okay,
you know, so, but we need 2 separate motions.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments? Anybody want to make a motion about anything? I think Greg Roy would like to make a motion so we can get on to his hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for 649 Reservoir Road.
Do we have a second for Richard's motion?
Second,
All right, a second by Katie, I believe that was. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
oops, aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye,
and I for myself. Now I'm looking for a motion to continue
So moved.
to
Second.
May 17th.
So
Second.
moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
aye.
and I for myself. Are there
Okay,
any
folks,
questions? Any questions from the applicants? I noticed the applicants were on here. Thomas and
no-
Melanie Payne.
Yes, hi. Nice to meet you all. No specific questions. We'll work with Matt to refine the plans and try to give you the detail you need to get it to get comfortable.
Super, and you know, also we need a diagram from the mason, you know,
Correct.
profile of the wall, so,
Yep.
all right,
Got it.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
move- I'm gonna go on to the next hearing now. Pursuant to Mass General Law.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night,
Aye,
Matt.
Matt.
Aye.
And
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Christopher and Andrea Oldham for the proposed construction of a deck, various site improvements, including a stone walkway, permeable stone patio, significant landscaping at 32 Pine Grove Road, DEP number, Ryan, is that you?
That is me. DEP number 2081292, issued yesterday.
Oh, congratulations. And did they have comments, Ryan?
They had one comment, and it was actually relative to something that's outside of the buffer zone. We had shown a garage to be constructed on the property, and they had just asked that we extended the erosion control barrier up and around that garage, should it be built.
Okay, outside our jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
So Ryan, would you like to share your screen and take us through this application?
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I actually have a PDF of a previous plan that we submitted. This project was up in front of your commission a little over 2 years ago. We had filed an RDA for the removal of several dead and decaying trees on the property within the buffer zone. Included in the application was the construction of a 14-foot deck on the existing dwelling, which is indicated here in this bold line. And then I believe at the first meeting, it was suggested by a commission member that we include possibly a walkway providing access from the house to the dwelling. So that was included on that plan as well.
Ah,
At the time, a negative determination was issued by the commission. So the applicant did proceed with the tree removal. However, fast forward 2 years, they have engaged Ream Design, landscape architects and AIR to develop a pretty extensive walkway system, a very extensive planting list, native plantings, providing that same nature of walkway that was proposed on the previous site plan. So the proposed walkway, and I have some pictures of the site I'll pull up here so we can get an idea of where it will fall on the property. But the proposed walkway will provide access from the cottage. The deck that was previously, for lack of a better word, approved as part of the RDA is still part of this application. There will be a bluestone patio system underneath that deck on the walkout to the dwelling. Then the walkway is indicated here, providing access down to the edge of Lake Whalum. The walkway itself will be constructed with bluestone, so it'll be semi-pervious, and then there are some granite steps proposed along the walkway as well to deal with the steeper portion of the site. And the intent is to use some weathered boulders to have a natural look on the side of on the sides of the walkway, take the curse off of some of the grading so we don't need to do too much earthwork for the walkway itself. And that will lead ultimately down to an existing utilized sand beach area, and they do have a dock on the property as well. I'm going to pull over a picture of the site onto the screen just so we can get an idea, so I can show where we're going to be putting this. So I just have 4 pictures of the site. I was out there on Saturday. This is the location. The deck that is proposed will be on the 2nd level of the house, and the proposed stone patio will be underneath the deck in the area of this existing concrete patio, and there is a retaining wall there as well. So that'll be removed and replaced with the new patio. This is standing in the same position. I'm now looking towards the lake. So there is somewhat of a natural runway here down towards the water. That will be the location for the proposed walkway. There is a concrete structure currently down on the flatter portion of the site that is, it clips the 30-foot no-touch zone, and that is the location of one of the 2 bluestone level patio areas along that walkway that we're proposing. The second of which will be in this, to just the left of this in the picture. There is one tree that is to be removed that was not removed, but was granted approval when we had filed the RDA, and that is this tree here. So that was included on the previous site plan when we filed the RDA. It did not come down 2 years ago, but for the walkway and the stone swale, which I'll talk about in just a second, we do need to likely take that one down, as we'll be potentially damaging the root system. I'm going to pop back over to the plan. Along the side of the plantings in the wall, we are proposing a stone swale to capture some of the drainage and any potential runoff due to the site disturbances. This is it'll be a stone trench. It'll have a perforated, I don't have the technical term, but it's the black roll pipe. It's perforated, it's flexible, so that will snake its way down alongside here, give an avenue for any potential stormwater runoff to go, so it's not washing out the proposed walkway. Aside from that, there's no mature tree removal. Like I said, the applicants have been working with Ream Design to develop a landscape palette. Last I heard, I believe it was 90% native plantings. There were some ornamental shrubs, some perennials, great land cover for insects and critters. There are some mid-level deciduous trees are in there as well. there's not a specific list generated by the applicants, but they do intend to refine that with landscape architects as they go through the design process. And I think the last thing I'll say before I open up to any questions or initial feedback, I do have a couple of example pictures of what this will look like to give you an idea. So this is not a rendering of this site or anything, but this is a very rough example of what we're thinking. So blue stone walkway here, weathered boulders on both sides to blend in the walkway with the slope. And then of course, throughout the whole, both sides, throughout the whole walkway, we do have a mix of perennials, native shrubs to establish that slope and give it a much more natural feel. And lastly, ignoring these granite blocks, this is a rough idea of what we're thinking for those lower patio levels. So there will be space between the rock. It is going to be pervious. Again, a more natural look and something that'll fit in good with the landscaping on the property. So I think that's all I have to say at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions if there's initial feedback or questions on the plan. I'm happy to take those now.
Thank you, Ryan. I would just comment that you're proposing to take out a solid concrete patio right behind the house under the deck. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. Yep.
And replace it with a sort of a pervious patio.
Yep.
And you're proposing to take out a solid concrete pad down where the bluestone patio's upper seating area is and replace that with a semi-pervious patio.
Correct.
Correct about that? And so in the future, I would suggest to you that you, take and call attention to that in your presentation and call it and have a calculation that shows, this is how much totally impervious surface we're taking out, as a trade-off, if one was needed. I don't know if one's needed here, for, what we're proposing to do here.
Absolutely. I appreciate the feedback.
That's it's just a suggestion, for future presentations, and it could be one of the commissions will ask for it tonight. I don't know, but that's just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so questions or comments from commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? Mary Wilson.
I was slow to raise my hand.
Well, it's getting,
Yeah,
it's almost 9 o'clock.
I know. I might turn into a pumpkin. Ryan, so that I am clear, and I was out there on Saturday, but I misunderstood or looked at the wrong folder, whatever. I didn't get out into and look at the right and take pictures of the correct area. So closer to the lake, where the proposed, granite work is going, do you have photos or anything that shows us? I guess the place I'm really focusing in is within the 30-foot do not disturb zone, the proposal to add some granite and whatnot there. What does that currently look like?
I don't have any pictures handy other than the ones I have. I can try to zoom in for you. They're not super clear. So
Yeah.
it is an area that's maintained and they do use it now. There's some stone getting down there, some stone pathways. But the area that the walkway would essentially terminate is roughly where my hand is here, leading towards where their dock is installed.
Okay. And so as you show us this photo, you did mention the one tree in the foreground is going away, or at least proposed to go away because it had been previously approved. Those 3 mature trees that are shown to the left in the background, those are going to remain?
Those are all to remain, yes.
Okay, fair enough. And then the trees, smaller trees in the background to the right, closer to the lake, those are all to remain?
Those are all to remain, that's correct.
Okay. I think, so is the dock staying in the same place? Because in the drawing, it seems like So it seems like what you're saying is that the walkway goes straight down to the dock, but in the drawing, the dock seems to be, off, what would be the right in the orientation of the of the photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think this dock location, it was an approximate location of the seasonal dock from the RDA plan, so we didn't go out and locate the one that's there today. So I think you're right. I think ultimately the existing dock there today might be more planned south.
Okay. Okay, and the reason why I'm asking about that is I kind of want to understand really, the foot traffic, right? So if
Absolutely.
you're going to have foot traffic in the 30 foot area, then we do want to protect against erosion and whatnot, and then we wouldn't want to have where we have those mature trees and hopefully some vegetation coming back where those smaller trees were, right? We wouldn't want to be encouraging foot traffic over there.
Absolutely. If it would be helpful too, this 24-inch tree here, which is below all the disturbance area, is this tree right here. So that stone swale would come in
that's
on the
helpful.
side there, and everything else
Yeah.
would be just upgrading, or I suppose downgrading of that picture, right?
Okay. Why particularly is that 24-inch tree shown, but then I guess I can kind of see why the ones to the left may not have been shown, but the ones over on the right don't appear to be shown.
These ones here, you mean?
No. That's the one in the foreground. I'm talking about in the background, closer to the lake and to the, right
Oh,
there.
those ones. Yeah, when we located the trees for the previous filing, we were focused on the mature ones that we were going to be trimming. I think these trees are definitely closer to the brook or the edge of the wetland where the water feeds into the lake here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I guess they are smaller scale, and that's just what we had for the.
But you're
former
not gonna
application.
you're not gonna touch those, right?
No, we're not proposing to do any removal down there.
Okay. And then my last question, before I really try everybody's patience. So this drainage area, is that just gonna dump out onto the surface? Is it gonna dump into like a, I don't know, rain garden, or where is that gonna, how is that gonna terminate?
So it is daylighting. I actually do have a profile here on the second sheet. So it's going to be a stone swale. So it's capturing some. It's going to have a perforated pipe in the bottom. So there will be discharge throughout the swale, not necessarily just at the outfall. The perforated pipe will provide the stormwater a chance to dissipate, and the soils out here are pretty sandy, so it won't. We don't anticipate this being a very high flow.
Okay.
Discharge onto the lake.
Is the swale shown on the drawing?
It is. I have it right on the side here. It snakes pretty much alongside of the proposed development area.
Okay. Yeah, I understand now. I was thinking that because when I was there, it looks like from the driveway down to the lake that maybe there's like a 25-foot kind of elevation change. And so I kind of thought that this drain was just going down that 25-foot elevation change, but it's not. It's going to be that swale, and that gravel is going to be relatively level.
It'll still be steep. We do have this. We do regrade it a little bit to take the curse off it, and again, with the perforated pipe, we do that will help with the velocity going through that. So
okay, all right. No further questions for me.
Thank you, Mary. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Or anyone care to make a motion on this notice of intent? I think based on what I've heard, I'm looking for a motion to approve this notice of intent.
I second, Mike.
I didn't hear who made the motion. Who made the motion? Mike, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would. I thought you had made the motion, but you
No,
were
no, I
asking
don't make
others.
motions usually unless it's an
Of
extreme case.
course. All right. I do make the motion based on the presentation we just heard. I just had one question about the tree that's being removed. Are the roots being, or the stump being removed, or is it staying like the one in front of the tree that was removed previously?
The intent is to pull this, to pull the stumps on this one. Formerly, it was due to slope stabilization that there was some concern. However, we are going to be restoring this area with the plantings, with the grading around the swale. Anything that's not the proposed shrubs or the swale will be restored with 4 inches of lumen seed. So these areas will be stabilized after those are removed.
Very good. I still want to make a motion to approve this project.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have a second?
Second, Richard.
Second by Rich Tremblay. Now discussion. Jeff Viviano.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we just had a previous applicant with a patio inside a 30-foot. Since this is bluestone and there's a lot of room in between the stones, this is something that we'll typically allow. Is that, I
I
guess,
have
our
no clue what the
opinion.
difference is. I'm not going to defend it.
Okay.
I mean, I was surprised, to be honest with you, that there was no comment about the stone along the edge of the weathered boulder wall along the edge of the lake and patio within the 30-foot no disturb after the last application.
Well, but wait a
Yeah,
second.
I guess I was looking
Oh.
for the same questions, but
I was, I'll go through the formality of raising my hand.
Go ahead, Mary.
So where I see that weathered boulder wall appears to be like 10 feet or so away from the edge of the existing water, right? There's like this green, like double dotted line that says
duh.
the edge of the water, right?
Pay no attention to the blithering idiot who is the chair tonight. You are absolutely right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I
Yeah, my
understood that right.
mistake.
Okay, yeah, and then you know, wasn't addressed at me, but I'll at least tell you my thoughts, Jeff. My thought was that in this case, we are taking away a solid concrete patio area and putting natural stones with, you know, pervious, you know, kind of spacings in between them. So to me, that seemed to be the difference than replacing sand with brick pavers.
Thank you, Mary. Is there any other discussion before we vote on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Rich Birch.
Oh, Rich seems to have dropped.
yeah, I don't see him on the list.
Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
aye for myself. Congratulations, Ryan.
All right, thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
All right. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Lisa and Jeffrey Richard for the proposed installation of a deck at 52 Spring Street Extension. Is there someone here for the Richards? Greg Roy. Are you here, Greg, for them, or did I just have my cursor over your name?
No, I'm not here for that one. I have the
All
next
right.
two.
Is there anyone here for that one? I'm looking for a motion to continue
So moved.
to May 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call vote. Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. So I just remembered, tomorrow, by the way, is Rebecca Manley's last day working for us. And I have to take and send her a list of our actions tonight. And so I just want to recap before I forget. We had a negative determination, am I correct, for the one lakefront RDA?
649 Reservoir Road, is that what you're asking about?
No, what, one lakefront Avenue, Mark Birch putting sand and the stuff on the beach. Yeah, we gave him a negative determination.
Yes,
He was
yes.
gonna come back.
That's correct.
And the one we approved was 640,
I think 9.
649 we approved, and we continued 647.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And we just approved that, and now we're on to our next one. Oh, and we just approved 32 Pine Grove Road, and we just continued that. Let's go back now. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a notice of intent by Lunenburg Skate Park Incorporated for the proposed construction of a skate park and drainage basin at 100 Chestnut Street. I believe we have a professional engineer with us who will take us through this.
I am here this evening. This one's easy. I need to continue this one, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Because we are working with the Parks Commission that's going to require a little coordination and may result in a few plan changes. So I want to not waste your time this evening and kick this down the road a couple weeks, please.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to continue this till May 17th.
So moved.
All right. we have,
Second,
well, I don't know. Katie and Mary were kind of tied there.
all right. Give it to Katie.
All right.
Yeah,
we'll give it to
Katie gets a
Mary
turn.
second. Mike is out of the running. Roll call. Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. And last but not least, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Robert Shapiro for the proposed construction of a parking lot and relocation of an existing playground at 39 Main Street. Do you have a DEP number, Greg?
We do. It is.
Oh, did they have any comments?
They did. They had one comment.
And what it was?
It was to do soil testing in the proposed detention basin,
Okay,
which we have done. So I'll go through that. I had some comments from your board as well, your commission from 2 weeks ago, and then we had that. So just for the record, Mr. Chair, the DEP number that was issued is 208-1291.
thank you.
And I am here this evening, Greg Roy, Dillison Roy, representing Rob Shapiro, the applicant, who is also with us. And I would like to share my screen if that is appropriate to do.
We would love that. At least the chair would.
All right. Okay. So at the last meeting, at the opening meeting, you asked us to do 3 things. Let me backspace a little bit. I submitted revised plans to you today with a cover letter, and I wanted to apologize out of the gate for the last minute nature of that submittal.
That's okay. Everybody got them, Greg.
Okay. The reason we sent those so late is we also captured some comments that we got from the planning board's peer review consultant, which we got late last week, and it just took us a few days this week to get those done. So I like to have a set that's hopefully the last set that your commission and the planning board will review, so that you both can kind of be looking at the same thing. So that's why I held off. But I issued you a letter along with the revised plans today, dated today, that tells you relative to your comments, the changes that we made to the plan. The first thing we did was to add a tree removal a tree schedule, I'm gonna call it here, on the plan. And this is on the erosion control plan. The set that you got is actually an 8-sheet set. This is on sheet, the second or third sheet in the set, I believe. So if you folks are looking at it on your own. We identified all of the trees that are shown on the plan in the schedule. So you can kind of see what the species is, what the size is. And then the ones that are proposed to be removed, we've indicated those in red in this table. So you can see here, we have several that are proposed to be removed. And then if you go into the plan view, we also included the ones in red. The ones to be removed are also shown in red. So I was hoping that identifies these a little bit clearer. The plan we showed 2 weeks ago wasn't extremely clear. So this orange dashed line is of course the limit of the buffer zone. So there's several trees that are shown for removal that are outside of the commission's jurisdiction. There's I think 6 trees that are will be removed that are outside the commission's jurisdiction. Most of the remaining trees are all that will be removed are actually outside of the 50-foot no structure offset. With the exception of these 2 trees right here, those both fall within between 30 and 50 feet, actually a little bit greater than 40 feet away from the wetlands. So there are no trees being removed within the 30-foot no touch zone of the site. In fact, no work is being proposed within the 30-foot no touch zone on the site. And then so we've added that information to the plan. The other thing that you asked us to do was to take another look at the area of the detention basin, just to make sure there wasn't to identify the trees in that area. I think at the time I was remembering that there were less trees in that area than there actually are. So, but be that as it may, we did identify several more trees that exist in this area. Again, the red trees are the ones that would be removed to accommodate the grading for the detention basin. These 4 actually, this buffer zone, if you can kind of see over here, the wetland delineation stops as we went off the property, but it continues on that contour. So it kind of diverges away from the property here. It's pretty consistent with the elevation out there. So this 100-foot buffer zone really kind of continues along straight in that fashion. So these 4 trees are actually outside of your jurisdiction. This 24-inch oak tree is pretty significantly damaged. It's still living, but the main stem succumbed to one of our storms. I don't know which one, but there's a real big section out of it, so it's pretty heavily damaged. And then the tree over here that is an add since last time is a rather small 8-inch locust tree. So that one would have to be removed too, as it's in the proposed grading for the detention basin berm. But again, all of those are outside of actually all of these ones on the detention basin are outside of 50 feet, not even within the 30 to 50 range. So so we did those 2 things, and then you asked us to add. Bear with me while I switch. You asked us to add cross-sectional details of the retaining wall to the plan, so we did add that. It's on the last sheet of your set, sheet C 6.1. So there's actually 2 retaining walls, so we added both of those just so we made sure we were covered. One of them is in your jurisdiction, the other one is not, but we added both of them just to make sure. And then DEP, of course, had the comment that they asked us to do soil testing within the detention basin. And we did advance a couple of soil testing holes in the bottom of the detention basin. The groundwater was actually a little higher than we had anticipated. So we actually did do some modifications to the detention basin grading, but nothing got further down slope. We just sort of raised the elevations by a foot or two. And it didn't get any closer to the wetland. We have a nice area here to do stormwater management. It really didn't create any further an increase in footprint. So that is all relative to your commission's comments. The peer review comments were actually relatively minor. Most of them related to similar things. The soil testing was a comment of theirs. They had a couple of drainage comments that we cleaned up. They asked us to show a dumpster, which is shown right in this location, so outside of the buffer zone. And a few other minor comments. We added some bollards adjacent to the parking area because we're protecting the proposed playground area. But again, I just want to make sure those were on the plan, but they really don't relate specifically to your commission. So that's all. I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Any comments or questions from the one remaining member of the public? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve with a standard order of conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Mike LaRouche. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Richard, roll call. Jeff,
I wasn't present for the last meeting and I didn't do a Mullins, so I believe I have to abstain.
well, then you go right ahead. Katie,
Okay.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Greg. Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
get that bicycle out of the shop.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I need to do that. Hey, I got an email from you, Mr. Chair. Did you want me to stay on for a discussion later regarding
Oh, I just was copying it. I sent him a copy of the email that I sent to the commission about the recommendations of the Beaver Associates. And no, you don't have to stay on, but they had some recommendations about how, when we go to do something in there, how we can effectively
okay.
mitigate some of those beaver dams.
So anticipating the award of the grant,
Oh,
you are giving it
that
to me
grant
for
was
the
written by Mary Wilson. There's not a doubt in my mind that it will be approved.
No pressure
Roger
there.
that. Roger that.
All
Very
right.
good.
Thank you,
Okay.
Greg.
Thanks.
All right. So we approve that. Let's see, there are no topics. Update on Timber Rights Fund. I have no update on that. Earth Day wrap-up presentation. Mary is gonna give a presentation to the select board. When?
Yesterday.
Yes, oh, I missed it. I'm gonna
You
have
missed
to
it.
watch it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I'd be happy to do a quick wrap up to my fellow commissioners if that's appropriate.
All right, go for it.
All right. We have here in Lovely Green, Earth Day wrap up. I'm just not gonna, I think you guys were up to date on kind of the whole history of things, and you probably saw this really cool logo that Anna Lockwood in the Parks Commission was my co-conspirator.
Yeah.
She came up with this. We leveraged the logos that we used last year. And did marketing at a multiple venues, right? So the Lunenburg Ledger, we paid for a couple of ads. Lunenburg Ledger sponsored ads. We did, Anna and I throughout the whole month were doing Facebook posts, right? Both advertising and then doing shout outs to volunteers to thank them, and also kind of keep the visibility up. And then in the background, we were taking the input from these forums, and particularly for volunteers that were representative of groups, doing a lot of personal engagement with them and working with them to kind of tailor venues and opportunities for the groups that wanted to have a group event to support Earth Day. And we got a lot of participation. We were able, as you can see, to cover a lot of properties, including, several events on the Conservation Commission properties, right? So we got I didn't think anybody would come out and help me dig up invasive bittersweet, and lo and behold, I had about 8 people who spent all day out there at the Lane property helping me dig out invasive bittersweet. We had about 13 people that showed up. The pollinator habitat, Mike was there mowing the grass and mowing the pathways and everything. It was absolutely lovely. The library joined us for sheet mulching and then for tree planting, and they had a nice turn up. And then we had all these ad hoc events that were happening around, where people just kind of collection of neighbors that said, hey, we're just going to go walk down the street and pick up stuff. And the Freemasons, Aurora chapter of the Freemasons, also did, I think, New West Townsend Road. So it was really cool. Here's some photos of, I think this was Wallace Playground. Yeah, and yeah, the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts showed up to do Veterans Park. That was absolutely a stunner turnout, right? They did a fabulous job. And the Salvation Army even showed up with their truck and gave everybody some snacks and whatnot. There was a cleanup of the town pound as well. We had, yeah, here are all these sturdy individuals that helped out with digging the invasive bittersweet. I'm still astounded by that, because what a thankless job and what a grueling job. I was sore for a week, and those guys stuck with it all day. Girl Scouts came out to the Table Rock and with a mascot, and marked, I think we did red and some blue and green trail markers that day. So lovely. Here we have Mike LaRouche in his Class A Ferrari. It's the pollinator habitat. And yeah, we had a great time. There's I think it was a tulip poplar that the library ended up putting in their back little park area there. So it was lovely. And when we spoke to the select board, we did give special thank you to where we got a lot of special promotion. The Lunenburg Ledger, I mean, that's really money out of their pocket to give us a free ad, quarter page ad, which they did. DPW was all over the place, DPW and facilities, trash pickups, you'd call them, they'd come get stuff, right? Dumpster support, etc. That was awesome. We had Margaret Scarsdale showed up at, I think, the Chestnut Street neighborhood cleanup. That was an ad hoc event. And then, of course, these groups really, pulled a lot of people in to help our project. And what does that look like? So it looks like that we touched 13 properties, including the ad hoc areas. We had 122 people overall that turned up on all of these events, which I'm absolutely astounded by and think is super cool. A total of 361 man hours. And, just using the Mass Trails in-kind metric, that equates to roughly $11,000 in benefit back to the community. So I think it was awesome. And Anna and I are already talking about next year. We want to try to start dialogue in October. Things that worked well was the marketing, the QR code and the web forms. Anna was all over that. She showed me how to do it. Now I'm a believer in the Google web forms. You just get all kinds of metrics out of that. It is awesome and so easy to set up. The other thing that we thought worked really well is having it spread out across the whole month doing multiple events. It really allowed people who wanted to participate. And April's tough for families because you got spring sports, you have, spring vacation. And I think having it spread out across the month really helped maximize the turnout that we had. So we'd like to continue that, and we'd really like to continue this like with the same kind of cadence so that it just ends up being the expectation that every April that we're going to have some Earth Day set up around the town. Things that we'd like to do next year, if we could, is figure out something about t-shirts. I think it was Jenny Albertson, Mike, that kind of brought up this idea to have a t-shirt raffle at each event. So you don't buy a t-shirt for everybody, but you buy for every event, you buy one of each t-shirt. And then the volunteers that show up can put their name in the hat to be raffled and receive a t-shirt at the end of the day if they win. If money
Sounds
were
good.
no obstacle, and if inventory and forecast and how many people are going to show up was no obstacle, I'd want everybody to have, that t-shirt that's the brand badge. In my opinion, it says, hey, I show up and I'm invested in my community. But money is an obstacle. Funding t-shirts, managing inventory, trying to predict in December how many people are going to show up in April. That would be a challenge, I think, and maybe not one that I want to take on in the short term. And we'd really like to do more things with children and families, right? And that's a challenge because people with little ones can't be raking and then chasing the toddler down at the same time. I thought about maybe doing some kind of scavenger hunt over at the Lane Dinosaur Trail. We might be able to figure out something about that. And then somebody at the pollinator habitat actually said that when they lived in Olympia, Washington, that Olympia did for Earth Day a pollinator parade. So kids and families and really anybody who wanted to participate, right, could dress up as their favorite pollinator, a bee, a moth, and be part of the parade. And that might be a fun thing to do. If we got enough interest. The other thing we were thinking we might start doing kind of as we go into the fall is maybe trying to do some surveys that we throw out on social media just to see, what kind of traction we get with some of these ideas. And that's it. That's my wrap-up report.
Thank you, Mary. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thank you. It was fun. I like it. We're going to do it again next year.
All right. Nothing on, master plan committee. I think I shared with everyone, the planning board is looking for a member of the Conservation Commission to serve on the master plan committee. This is a 2-year commitment. It is a 15-person committee. It is an steering committee. The planning board gets to make all the final decisions. The steering committee really has no say in the final master plan. It's probably a once-a-month meeting. Don't everyone volunteer at once. Moving on. We'll bring it up again at a future meeting when Rich is present. Updates on encroachment issues. I met with the town attorney about 950 Chase Road. He pointed out to me that when the present owners bought the property, it said in the multiple listings that there was a shed on the property that was not, that there was a shed that was not on their property. So when they bought the property, they knew they were buying a, something where there was a shed associated with the house that was not on their property. And so he thought that was significant, and he's drafting a letter. And when the letter has been drafted and sent, I will share it with the committee, with the full commission. Nothing new on the other 2 encroachments. Anything new on Hollis Road, Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I meet with Chris Ruth tomorrow morning at 123 Hollis Road we're finally gonna get in and take a look at the property together.
Super.
So
Excellent,
we'll have some sort of action plan hopefully by the next meeting.
excellent. Thank you so much, Mike, for your persistence
You're welcome.
and willingness to help.
Okay.
I also discussed the Hollis Road lease agreement with the town attorney, because the Hollis Road lease agreement calls for, I forget how many hours of pro bono work improving conservation lands.
I think it's 30 hours, Mr. Chair.
30, thank you, Mike. And he is in the process of crafting a letter to to the tenant for the consideration of Adam, Bernie, and myself and Anna. And again, when that letter is completed, I'll share that with the full commission. We're not going to consider the certificate of compliance for 12 Alder Way tonight. Anna's not with us, and I had the occasion to watch the last select board meeting where there was a fairly long discussion about the drainage issues on Flat Hill Road and the lack of Conservation Commission plans, and that they've been looking for them, and it sounds like we need a lot more clarity before we approve any certificate of compliance for the Flat Hill Road complex. Violations, Anna's not with us. Howard Street driveway, Bill Bernard is not optimistic. Timber sales, nothing new. Conservation land improvements. I met with an abutter who rides all the time on Table Rock and has done a tremendous amount of trail work on Table Rock and also in the Northwest Town Forest over the past 2 decades. And he is in the process of cutting some of those connecting trails that we showed when we discussed, like a master trail plan for Table Rock 1 or 2 meetings ago.
Awesome.
Also, Mary and myself and George French met with a gentleman from Beaver Associates, and they went out there and they took and sent us some recommendations, which I believe I sent to the commission, to the full commission a little while ago, with some ideas about how we could take and address the beaver dam. If you go out that road, there's a beaver dam on the left that sort of takes advantage of an existing earthen dam, which was there from prior. And also then a little farther down, there is a culvert, which has been totally blocked by the beaver. And, and they sent us a proposal where they would take and send in a flow device, put in a flow device, and we would pay them for it. But I think at this point, I may go down and see if I can find the opening to that culvert sometime, because it's now totally buried by the beavers. But I'm thinking we'll wait till we hear about the grant, our grant application in June, and make a decision then about, do we want to incorporate that into the next grant, beaver deceivers and stuff. So, but they had some very concrete suggestions. Let's see, Table Rock attorney boundaries. Oh, and we got in, I don't know, oh, I got to turn my camera. When did I turn my camera on?
It may have decided for you.
Yeah. These are the proposed, these are our property boundary markers. On my screen, the printing is all backwards. I'm not quite sure why.
It looked fine on this side.
Okay, excellent. And it shows approximate property boundary in the middle, and on both sides of the top, it says Town of Lunenburg, and both sides of the bottom, it says Conservation Commission land. And we've been putting these up where the trails cross from conservation land to non-conservation land so far in Table Rock and in the large town forest. And George French has been doing an amazing job putting up signs. And so he's going to be helping with those too. Committee updates, nothing. Do any of the members of the commission have any final public comments?
I have an update.
Sure,
Mr.
go
Chair.
ahead.
Are you ready? Stormwater?
Well, I watched that I listened to part of that meeting and it seemed like you were the chair.
I was.
My condolences.
Thank you. Well, anyways, the town has hired a contractor that's going to be doing a mapping of our existing stormwater lines and drains. You'll see them around town. And that's expected to be wrapped up by this fall. So we're going to actually have everything finally put on paper. Now that the snow is gone, you're going to see the DPW. They're out there right now cleaning up some of the storm drains. Their goal is to get 50% of them if they can. A more interesting project, and one that I'm kind of watching closely, is there's a proposed rain garden on the grounds of the high school. We're trying to find the right spot to put it in. And once the project comes full circle, we're going to try to involve the students with the plantings and the monitoring and the care for that rain garden. So those are three of the things that we're working on with stormwater currently. Thank you.
Rich, thank you. All kidding aside, thank you so much for your service on the Stormwater Task Force. It's an important committee, and we're lucky that you represented us on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other public comments, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 9:42.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Roll call. Jeff,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rich,
Bye.
and I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Rich, thank you so much for recording tonight.
Yes, sir.